Hello, and welcome to a live pop culture on Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I am one of your hosts, Keri, and I'm so excited that we're back. I was just telling my co-host, Mystery Chris, it's so good to talk to him today. And uh, I've been traveling a lot this past quarter of this year, the final quarter, and I'm very grateful for it. I'm not ungrateful. I love getting to travel, but it was 5 weeks up to Montana and back, 2 weeks in Europe, and I'm very happy to be back, and I'm happy to be back on our regular schedule. If you are new here, this is a live show that we do every other Wednesday at 8 o'clock Central. It's myself and our fabulous co-host, my good friend Mystery Chris. How are you, Mystery Chris?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good getting to talk to you. And a lot's happened since I last saw you on this show. Uh, you see this earring? Ugh,
Yes, what is that?
hold on. How do you do just one person on the screen? Here we go. It's a little Trump.
Where did you get those?
Oh, one of the coffee houses in Granger, Texas.
Uh,
And I couldn't resist. It was too funny. So, a little election happened. How did you
yeah.
enjoy it?
I stayed up to 4:30 that night watching and was just enjoying the meltdowns. And I'm so glad it went the way it did because I had been planning to do this episode. I wanted to pitch it to you for us to do it right after the election because we're going to get into modern talk shows, which get very political and stuff. But I was hoping that this wouldn't be a, a stream where we all be commiserating together about a loss. And so I was like, well, if that does happen, at least we can try to have some fun. But it's a lot more fun the way it went. And so I'm glad that everything turned out the
It is
way
a
we
lot more
wanted it.
fun this way. You're
Indeed.
right. And the wins just keep stacking up. I mean, today Trump announced his pick for the secretary of the head of the Department of National Intelligence is Tulsi Gabbard. I love Tulsi Gabbard. I voted for her in 2020 in the Democratic primaries, and I respect her military background, her history, and the fact that she's an anti-interventionist. And she tried to reform the Democratic Party, and they didn't listen, and she left, like a lot of us. And that was exciting. They're all melting down over a lot of the picks. Yesterday, they announced, and this is hilarious. Elon Musk and Vivek are going to be leading up what Elon is jokingly calling, or I guess they're really calling it this, the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge. And their job is to slash the size of federal government, to go in and make some real changes. And again, I'm gonna wait. I'll believe it when I see it, but I'm feeling very optimistic. I think it's fantastic if they actually do this. It's almost like, can you imagine voting for something and then something actually happens?
I want to know what that feeling feels like.
Right. What does that feel like when you vote for something and they do it
Yeah.
and they do what they said?
Yeah. We'll
So,
see. I mean, I'm not happy of all his picks so far, but
me
um,
either.
we'll see. I'm still optimistic, but wait to see though.
So, we're going to be talking about late night talk show hosts tonight. We're doing the rise and fall of late night, as Mr. Chris teased. And we've got some clips lined up. There are some clips we can't play because we'll get the video taken down like last time we talked about late night. But this is different than the last video. This is a whole retrospective of where late night started. We're going to talk about the highs of late night, the climax, and then the downfall. Viewership for late night television has been declining steadily in recent decades. And I saw a stat that said the Late Show with Stephen Colbert has seen recently a 32% drop in audience. I think there are not as many people tuning into this. And part of that's because of the multitude of options for entertainment now and for new media and for watching shows like this, watching shows on the internet instead. But part of it, I think, is also because of the quality. And it's just not as funny. It's too partisan, it's too political. They've a lot of these shows have put politics ahead of comedy, and so we're gonna get into that. But we're gonna look at the heyday as well. Before we get started, I want to thank a couple people, and I have a question for you, Mystery Chris. Jardum for £5 left the super chat earlier today. I love it. Thank you, Jardum. He says, I can't catch you live. I'm in the UK. 8 days sober, in part thanks to you, Keri. What does Chris think of the other Star Trek theme tunes? Well, first of all, I'll just say congratulations on the 8 days sober. That's
Yeah.
huge. That's amazing. That's monumental. And I hope you have somebody to mark that for you. I had a friend, Randy. I guess I don't know if he hopefully he doesn't mind that I say. He recently gave my husband and I 5-year coins, and that was so meaningful. I loved it. It was like marking the date. And if you don't go to AA regularly, I think there's a lot of value in AA. I used to go when I first got sober, and if you don't go regularly, I think you have to find ways to mark these achievements. And so, anyway, congrats on the 8 days sober. That's awesome. And he's asking you, since we did theme songs, what do you think of the other Star Trek theme songs?
I love all of them up until Star Trek Enterprise. So here we still have to work on you becoming a Star Trek fan, but the last Star Trek series before it went off the air for a long time and then got brought back as terrible stuff. That one used it was a cover of a Rod Stewart song, Faith of the Heart. It's so bizarre and weird. It's stuck in my head though, I'll admit that, but I loved all of them up to that. I think they kind of fit the overall vibe of the show. Voyager had a very exploration themed intro that kind of supported that theme that Voyager was going. D Space Nine had a theme that had relied on a horn. It was like a single horn playing that was reminiscent of the Frontier, which D Space Nine was kind of like a Western in
Okay.
space. But once you get past Enterprise and then to the newer stuff, which is just forgettable, generic sounding intro music, it's just sad because the themes were so good. Jerry Goldsmith did the Voyager theme. He's one of the greatest composers of all time. He did the Next Generation theme, which was originally the Star Trek the Motion Picture theme. And so they just had such great music back in the day, and it largely now sucks.
Isn't that's the case with a lot of things lately? A lot of
Yeah.
entertainment, a lot of pop culture. Aren't we always saying that? And now sucks. Last night, I have to tell you, last night, Anthony and I, we've been really enjoying the new porch since we got back. And we sat out on the porch and we were listening to this 1940s radio station. It's based in Montana, but you can get it on Radio Garden. That's where you can get radio stations from all over the world. And this station only plays 40s music and 40s commercials or anything before the 40s too. They play older stuff. And we're sitting out there and it was so beautiful. And we were talking about music through the decades, which you and I have covered. And my husband said, "What do you think was the worst decade for music?" And I'm like, "What decade do they call this?" Whatever they call this. I think that's the worst.
Yeah, well, I think our episode we did on the music, why modern music sucks. I think that's back up on YouTube. They took it down originally, and I
Did.
think it's up. But yeah, we went through the top 10 songs per decade from like 1890, I think, all the way till today. And I think we were pretty similar. I would argue that the decade prior to this one, or I would say actually, no, decade prior to the previous decade, I think was probably the worst.
Mm.
Now, whatever songs that in my opinion, are good today are very reminiscent of songs from the past, like 70s and 80s songs. Like I
Yes.
can think of like Uptown Funk with Bruno Mars and Mark
Oh,
Ronson.
yeah.
It
Well,
was just straight up 80s funk. Like
yeah.
I love the Gap Band, and so it was always weird to me. Like a lot of kids love that song and stuff, and I'm thinking like, okay, you love that, but there's like a whole genre of this type of music back in the 80s. Are you interested in going back and listening to any of that? Nah.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that I find that I do like today, which is very rare that I like the popular stuff today, but if I like it, it's reminiscent of previous decades, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
or it's outright sampling and borrowing from
Yeah.
previous decades. Wanted to say hello to Therese. Therese,
Hello?
give it up for our mod. She says, hey guys, I'm not chatting, but we're rearranging the furniture and I will listen. Good luck rearranging. I love rearranging furniture and getting rooms in order.
Gotta say that in
I'm
Jordan
tired.
Peterson voice.
I can't do accents either. You know,
Just do a Kermit voice.
I can't
Close
do that
enough.
either.
What?
I can only do Southern where I'm from. I can't do impressions. Even when oh man, even we landed in London on the way to uh Germany or Switzerland. And I said to my husband, "We're in London. G'day, mate." And he was like, "No, that's Australia. What are you doing?" Like, I cannot. It all sounds the
Look
same
like
to
a
me.
kangaroo over there.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Pirate Tomsky, give it up for our
Well, hello,
British
pirate.
mod. Speaking of London, for £2. Thank you, Pirate Tomsky. He says, when does Mystery Chris get his own talk show?
Yeah, I need to call up BET. Give me a show at 3 o'clock in the morning.
You're always welcome to have your own show here whenever you're ready.
Oh, what would I
No
talk
pressure.
about?
I'm
I
down
just
for
want to
it.
complain and talk about what happened to black music.
That's all it would be.
Yeah, what happened to black music?
Episode 1, episode 100. Pirate Tomsky for £5. Thank you. Pirate says, did you see the Babylon Bee article? Tulsi Gabbard realizes she's too attractive to be a Democrat. I did not see that. But is that, are you sure that wasn't from Not the Bee? Because that's true.
Babylon B is funny, and the Onion is not funny because the YouTube recommended me an old Onion video from like 10 years ago, and it was like a Photoshop image of a zombie Ronald Reagan. It was like the GOP resurrects Ronald Reagan to lead their party. I'm like, where's the joke? This isn't funny. There's nothing funny about anything they do. There's no truth in it. It's just dumb. But Babylon B is funny because there's truth in what they're talking about.
Yes. There has to be truth. And also you have to prioritize being funny over preaching your ideas. It's not a pulpit. I think so many of these woke comics, and I worked with a lot of them, they think it's a pulpit, like they're a preacher or something. I'm like, no, you're a comedian. You're supposed to make people
Comedy,
laugh.
what's that?
Right? Randy Wallen. Hello, Mr. Randy, for $10. Thank you for supporting pop culture on Deprogrammed. Says, my best of list. Okay. Oh, he's doing them in order. We should do a poll because I have opinions too.
Oh.
Number 1, he says The Tonight Show with Carson. Number 2, the late night with Letterman, early 80s on NBC. Number 3, Late Show with Craig Ferguson. And of course, the Larry Sanders Show. I think I co-sign almost all of this.
Really?
Yeah.
I put Craig number 1.
Really?
I didn't put, yes, Craig, and we'll get to Craig, but Craig, I think, was the best interviewer. He always made it a point to rip up all the pre-questions that they asked the guest, and he managed to make a lot of celebrities seem likable because a lot of these people are monsters and they're just not nice people. But his banter was always fun, engaging, silly, and it actually made me pay attention because most of the time when I was watching talk shows, I didn't really pay that much attention to the guest. I mean, if it was somebody I really liked, sure, but other times I was like, eh. But when I'm watching Craig, or old stuff of Craig, since he's off the air now, I love watching the interviews, even if they're with people that I don't care for, or I've never heard of, and never want to check out any of their projects. And so I put him number 1. Conan would be second. Conan had the best skit by far. He was just silly, absurd. Then I'd probably put Letterman third. Letterman definitely had an influence on both of those men's careers. He sort of had his skits were a little silly. He had a lot more silly stunts. I think he kind of did, and less like characters and things. But you can see the influence he had on others. But I think that'd be my top 3.
I think mine would probably be, I can't say Carson just because I didn't have a chance to watch him that much, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
So I can't,
Be fair.
to be fair, I can't accurately place him on the list. I grew up watching Letterman and Leno when it was on. I don't like Leno. I would say my list, and I watched Conan, so mine would probably be Letterman, then Conan, then Craig Ferguson. That would
Number
be mine.
3.
Yeah, but I like Craig Ferguson. I was at, by the way, if you're a fan of his, uh, I was at his studio many times because one of the comedians I represented, she was always doing appearances on his show. So we were always over there, and he was fun. He was funny, but
Yeah, and he handles serious subjects well too.
yeah,
There's he essentially did a eulogy when his mother died and then his father died, and very touching stories, and he did it in a humorous way, and it was never like awkward or uncomfortable. Just great tributes to them. There was also the time when like Britney Spears had a meltdown in public, and she was like shaved her
yes,
head and was like, smashing windows and stuff. And he was like, I don't want to joke about this. She clearly has issues, and I don't want to like delight in someone's self-destruction.
he
I thought it was
seemed
very
very
touching. It
human.
didn't. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very human. Seemed real. It didn't come across as like moralizing and better than how like some of the current ones do. It just
yes.
it felt authentic, and I think that's one of the things that's been lost with a lot of these modern talk show hosts is they don't seem authentic. None of them.
Oh, they seem so fake.
Yeah.
The crop that we have now, that we've had for a while now, I can't think of an authentic one in the bunch.
No, I would have thought maybe Fallon, but then all the stuff came out that he's a huge monster and supposedly an alcoholic, and so I'm like, well, I
He
guess
he
nobody
seems
is then.
fake as crap to me.
Really?
They all do, yeah, like, just completely disconnected from himself. I
It's just-
don't get a good vibe from any of them.
I just remember
And
one time.
what?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One time Tracy Morgan says something about Fallon, and he like dissed him somehow, and then he went on his show. And Jimmy Fallon, it was so awkward. Jimmy Fallon's like, "Hey, buddy, you recently said some things about me that weren't so nice. They really hurt me." And Tracy Morgan's like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, I just want you to know, buddy, that I love you. Okay." He's like, "All right." And he like gives him this awkward hug. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Tracy Morgan's like, "This is weird.
Yeah.
Why do you do that?" I think. Okay, so we've got a poll up, and I can only put 4 options on the poll. So I put 4 of the best known. Pick your favorite of these in the chat. Let us know. We've got it's between Carson, Letterman, Leno, and Ferguson.
You didn't put
And
Conan there?
I didn't put Conan on there because you like Ferguson so much.
I
He's
do,
your
but I
number
think
one.
there's more people that love Conan than Ferguson.
Probably.
And I
Man,
think
I should have put Ferguson / Conan.
What are you, a pollster?
Yeah.
Kamala / JFK.
Well, currently Carson is winning 44% of the vote.
Okay.
Yeah. Then Letterman with 25%, Ferguson with 22%. And I think everybody is universally across the board just kind of like, meh on Leno. He does have 9% of our
Mm.
audience says they like Leno the best.
Well, we'll
But
get to
okay.
Leno because I found some stand up of his before he became talk show host, and he was actually a little bit edgy because he
Before.
basically turned into like a comedian that just did dad jokes.
Yeah.
And I think that's why so many people are just like, you're lame,
I was just like,
and screwing over Conan, which we'll get to that.
we'll
But
get to it. We'll get to
yeah.
it. Just a quick thanks to Mr. Pirate Tomsky became a new member.
Woo-woo.
Woohoo! And Mr. Generosity, he gifted 10 memberships. So if you got one of those, the pirate is to thank. Thank you, pirate. And then this was for Jardum at the beginning, who said he has 8 days sober. And Toker88 just says 9 more days, and it gets so much easier day by day. Good advice. It is. What they say is true. 1 day at a time. Okay. So where should we start? At the beginning?
Let's do beginning. Yeah. So you want to talk about the Faye Emerson show? Just real quick, because I don't know much about Faye Emerson show, but this is generally credited as the first talk show It was only 15 minutes, aired on CBS from 1949 until I believe 52, I think it was. There's I put or 51.
Oh, hold on.
So she was an actress, and they gave her a talk show. So I'm like, okay.
I had never heard of her.
I hadn't either.
So the first, credited with being the first late night talk show, the Faye Emerson Show.
And I also want to say how fascinating it was back in the 50s, like in the early 50s, how they didn't have commercial breaks. It was certain products or companies sponsored an entire show. And so they'll open up with like, was this Pepsi Cola? And that was just the sponsor for the entire show.
I love watching old ads. Let's watch it.
Pepsi bounce, now go get Pepsi for the Pepsi bounce, more bounce to the ounce, more bounce to the ounce. Go get Pepsi for the Pepsi bounce, and 5 6 less when Pepsi's there. More bounce to the ounce than Pepsi.
I guess Skitch is just going to have to start me on something easier. I just can't do it. Try my best. You know, I got a letter I want to read you. A letter from Mr. Myers. Mr. Myers says, Dear Miss Emma.
From this, we reached to Jimmy Kimmel eventually.
Crying.
Silent film.
It's Faye Emerson's fault.
The show you had about Cyrano de Bergerac prompted me to write to you. We've been taking home movies at our house for many years. My wife, who is quite a pianist, has written a score, and when we get the family together to show our home movie, she plays her piano as background music. The effect is really wonderful. And it's too bad that piano accompaniment to movies is a dead art. Well, he goes on to say some other things, but that's the part I thought you'd be interested in, because I want to tell you, Mr. Myers, that I agree with you about it being a dead art, only it isn't quite dead. There is a gentleman right here in New York City who makes a very good living, as a matter of fact, by playing accompaniment to silent movies. That's at the Old Nick Music Hall on 2nd Avenue. Have you ever been there? It's a wonderful place. At any rate, his name is Mr. Curly Green, and he's with us. Come on in, Curly. When you see him, I think you'll know why we call him Curly. Hello, Curly. How are you?
Very fine, thank you.
Yes, you too.
We're just drinking. I just love the whole TV. People drink and smoke.
And I love that it's just like, hey, come in and chat with me and have some drinks and play piano. And this is like the late night.
Maybe not exactly Valentina. That would be a boy and girl love scene, wouldn't it? But how about one of those suspense things? Very, very spooky. Curly, you know what I want you to do? I have a silent movie of my own I'd like to show tonight, and would you play the accompaniment for me? Would you do the score underneath?
Right.
We got a real silent movie for you. You ready, Curly?
All ready to go.
All right, then. Let's have the overture.
He's tossed.
Okay, this is the show.
Yeah, not a lot of talking for a talk show.
Yeah, so normally it's like reading letters from people, like fan mail and stuff, and people stopping by to chat, drinking, playing piano. It's just a world of difference, wouldn't you say?
I can see how after a long day, it's hard work, people come home, watch the news, tell them about terrible things, and then you got a nice little piano playing and people drinking, relaxing. I can see how that would work.
Yeah, I mean, it's very inviting and homey. If we didn't have other topics to get to, I'd sit here and watch the whole thing.
You don't have to pull this one up. We can just briefly talk about unless you want to, but.
No, tell people about it and then we'll move on.
Oh, Broadway Open House. That was the precursor to The Tonight Show. It was a variety show. It wasn't so much a talk show, but it aired from 1950 to 51 on NBC and kind of showed NBC that there was something to late night television. And so that would lead into The Tonight Show, which would later come in 1954 with Steve Allen, who was hosting a show in New York City, which eventually became The Tonight Show. And this is from the very first episode.
So Faye Emerson that we just watched, that was on CBS. And as Mr. Chris said, it was a 15-minute show, 1949 to 1951. And this was a few years later, as you said, 1954, NBC. And this is the first show.
That's where we're taking you now, tonight and every night. Now to meet the star of our show, Steve Allen.
The sound is only in one ear on this one. It's very low.
Boy, we've been making last-minute changes around. That's something which I am very well aware. Well, sir, we're pretty weird. I'm very well aware that isn't at all amusing in Omaha or Chicago, but it's breaking us up around here. We've had the best engineering and production brains east of the Mississippi working on a clever opening for this program for about the last 3 months, ever since we planned to go on. We were going to have the Empire State Building and move it, and the city, we had Mayor Wagner at our beck and call. They were going to give us, the East River was going to flow the other way, and all sorts of
He has a piano
very
too, right?
exciting things. And about 20 seconds
Yeah,
ago,
I'm going to skip ahead to the desk. Yeah, well, here's him at the piano. It's just, it's just amazing to me how much the piano was a part of average, I would say, life until recently. I feel pretty lucky that I have a pianist who's my husband, so I get to hear a piano all the time. But a lot of people nowadays seem to have pianos in their home, but no one that knows how to play it.
Somebody stole the beer. I can see right now what our big problem is going to be. It's going to be explaining every single joke. That's a New York joke. I'm sorry, I didn't plan it. We are
you
sponsored
laughing?
locally for 15 minutes before we come on the network to all you people. And we're sponsored by a beer. And I don't want to say they don't trust me, but I leave a half a glass of beer around. As soon as they stop paying the bill, zip, it's back in the bottle, you know?
He was talking about his previous show, the Knickerbocker Beer Show.
Oh.
Now then. Boy, this is a confusing program tonight. It isn't any different or any better or any worse or anything than it usually is. And I'll tell you what this is. We don't have a script on this program, but starting tonight we got a timetable. And boy, look at that. I'm not kidding. These are no jokes. Some of the things are pretty tricky. We're going to go to Cleveland later. We have a 5-minute pickup from Cleveland, connected naturally with the World Series.
You could tell like how unstructured it was. Like this is the very first show. They didn't quite like know what they're doing. It's very transparent. Like yeah.
We traded the first one in already.
They had a lot of musical numbers. You could still see the influence of variety shows.
Yeah.
Or just random people singing.
Please excuse my platitude, but I like your attitude. You are just the kind I've had in mind. Never could find.
It was so classy. It was very classy.
It's very classy, yes. There's no vaccine needles dancing around. There's no like Michelle Wolf like salute to a bull. You know, this is just very pure compared to that, compared to
Yeah.
all of that crazy ideologue like posturing. And then he would have sketches.
Bullhead, when a great football player like you walks out on the football field. When a great football player like you walks out on the football field and sees the college banners waving, when you hear the college crowds roaring, what passes through your mind?
Another day, another dollar, that's all.
After you're thrilled.
If we were alive back then, I'm sure we'd be laughing too.
So Steve Allen was the host of the iconic Tonight Show on NBC from 1954 to 1957. There was actually somebody in the chat who said, I love Steve Allen. That was early. I don't know. It zoomed by, but I saw that. After Steve Allen, were there 3 like temporary hosts in between before Jack Paar?
He was moved into prime time. He got a primetime show, and he split it with Ernie Kovacs for a while. And then they had a series of rotating hosts, but that's when NBC, for whatever reason, decided to rebrand the Tonight Show as more of a kind of a news show. It's called, I think it was called America Tomorrow, America After Dark, I believe it was called. And it was not popular. And so they went back to the traditional talk show format, and that's when they brought in Jack Paar. But I didn't know much about Steve Allen prior to researching for this episode, and he comes off more as like a broadcaster rather than a comedian or just entertainer.
More serious.
Yeah, it's a little more dry. It's just not. I mean, I know growing up in the '90s and with all those talk show hosts who were a little bit more expressive, you know, I think looking back at Steve Allen and Paar and Carson, they all seemed a little bit more reserved, which I guess was the thing back then.
Well, he was multi-talented because we saw him playing the piano. Apparently, he was also a composer. Billed himself as an actor and a comedian, a radio personality, all of this. So he had a lot of talents. So Jack Paar is the one that most people know. As you mentioned, they had 3 people sort of in between. But Jack Paar was the host of The Tonight Show from 1957 until 1962. This is the one that people think of as, coming next after Steve Allen. I wasn't very familiar with him either.
I wasn't either. And this incident was one where he walked off his show because the night prior, NBC censored a joke he made about a American who goes to Sweden, and they're looking for a bathroom, which I guess was called a water closet, which I had no idea. Like that's what.
Oh, a WC. Yeah.
And
so in French, it's called WC.
Yeah.
WC.
Well, the Swedish person confuses it for a wayside chapel, and so they're telling them about the church, but the person thinks they're telling them about a toilet. And so this was risque, apparently. NBC cut it out of his show, which pissed him off. And in this incident here, he walks off in the middle of a show, leaving his sidekick there to host the remaining of the show.
So he just, this is funny to see a comedian who's dealing with censorship back then. So when was this? This was 1960?
Mm-hmm.
And how he dealt with it was kind of like, I'm leaving.
Knew full well what my future was going to be. That's the way it has to be with me. Now, I've made a decision about what I'm going to do. And only one person knows about this. It's you Downs. My wife doesn't know it, but I'll be home in time and I'll tell her. I'm leaving the Tonight Show. There must be a better way of making a living than this. There's a way of entertaining people without being constantly involved in some form of controversy, which is
He's trying not to cry.
Precursor to Jimmy Kimmel.
I was going to say precursor to Jimmy Kimmel. Plus, by the way, he did come back after a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Don Lemon quit X today. Don Lemon did I'm quitting X.
on me all the time. It's rough on my wife and child, and I don't need it. I like the National Broadcasting Company. They've been swell to me, and I've been pretty wonderful to them. I took over a show with 60 stations. There's now 158. The show is sold out. It's the highest, I think, money producer for this network. And I believe I was let down by this network at a time when I could have used their help. You have been peachy to me always.
Jack, you know what I said to you?
Awkward. He's there by himself. So a lot of the studio audience thought this was a bit. And they were all applauding, like waiting for him to come back on stage. But it wasn't a bit. That's Hugh Downs there, the announcer that he shook hands with.
Long applause break. Jeez.
It's so awkward. So Hugh Downs ended up like going into the audience and getting reactions from the audience and stuff. Like he handled it very well, but it's so awkward. So he came back.
Yep. 3 weeks later, he comes back, and this next clip I queued it up at the right spot. Pretty.
3 weeks.
As I was saying before I was interrupted, I believe my last words were that there must be a better way of making a living than this. Well, I have looked.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. He's like, I look
self-deprecating. Yeah.
Yeah, self-deprecating.
And there isn't.
So, let's see.
And then we have a clip of Jonathan Winters on his show playing a gay baseball player, which I was kind of surprised to see this in 1960s. I'm not quite sure if they could do it the same way now. He'd probably have to be an actual gay man to play a gay baseball player in a skit.
I'm the voice of spring. I bring you some little goodies from the Paar. Only his hairdresser knows for sure. You devil. Where did you decide to do this? This is something new. Well, I've been in the forest, and You've been on Third Avenue is where you've been. Took me 45 minutes to get that in. I'm sorry. In the forest, we don't care. Under my shoes are hoofs. Is that right? My legs are like that of a goat. But I dress for the city folks. But the birds and the bees and the animals and the fish and the creatures all want to wish everybody a great big spring.
Oh my God.
What would you say? What are you? No, I mean, I can't. They know in the forest. They have suspicions right here, too.
Well, that was the beginning of.
So, as you can imagine, when you're looking up Jack Paar, some of the stuff you find is through the modern day lens, the woke lens. And so there's a lot of stuff about like Jack Paar's aggressive homophobia. Aggressive. It was aggressive homophobia.
Yeah.
Just like that.
He did a one of his shows in the 70s. He had some gay activists on, and I was watching the clips of it, and he was like challenging with a bunch of questions and stuff. But I was looking at the comments, and it was like all these people who were saying that they were gay, and they were saying, "I'm gay, and I can tell he's a closeted gay man." Only people who are that hostile against gay people are actually gay men. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
And here we go with Johnny Carson. So Jack Paar also got a primetime show, and he was moved up in 62. And so they brought in Johnny Carson in 1962. I believe there's only audio of his first episode, but this is probably the earliest one I could find with video and audio in 1964. But you could see a very young Johnny Carson back when he had hair.
Talk about icon. He was the host. So you had Steve Allen for 3 years on The Tonight Show. You had Jack Paar for 4. And then Johnny Carson for 30 years.
30 years.
30 years.
It's amazing the amount of power he had, too, at NBC. Like, Saturday Night Live exists because of him. They used to show reruns of Tonight Show, like best of clips on Saturday night, but he didn't want that done anymore. And so they pitched Saturday Night Live, which he approved of. And that's when we got SNL. But he had so much influence at the network. And it, like you said, it was amazing that he was on for 30 years. He had a lot of competition that would come and go, but obviously none of them lasted anywhere as close to as long as he did. It's just crazy.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
From New York, the world's fair city, The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. Johnny's guests tonight are Shari Lewis, Henny Youngman, and special added attraction, the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, directed by Sam Donahue, and featuring Frank Sinatra Jr., Helen Forrest, the Pied Pipers, Charlie Shavers, and Jeannie Thomas. Skitch Henderson with the NBC Orchestra, and me.
This also feels very classy compared to today, doesn't it?
The big band music. I love it.
Yeah.
Jack Haskell. And now, here's Johnny.
I'll bet you say that to all your heroes, don't you? Huh? You know, we got more people on the show than we got in the audience tonight. That was very nice applause. I only wish we had the material tonight to match your confidence. But it's Friday. Or as we call it around here, another week down that great garbage disposal of television. Hey, we got a great show tonight, don't we? No? No, we have, we're going to have a harmonica solo tonight by Mr. Phil Linz of the Yankees. His first selection will be Who's Sorry Now? Those of you who haven't read that, it seems that there was a...
So if I were programming television and I could do whatever I wanted, I would do a show like this now. Bring back the 1960s. This clip's from 1964. Bring back the 1950s, 1960s aesthetic in terms of the furniture, the color, that particular shade of blue. Bring back the big band in the studio. Do classic sounds, classic music. Have a gentleman come out in a suit and make the jokes classy. Stay away from this ridiculous partisan crap. And I would just, it would be you're saying at the beginning, a lot of the popular music today, if you do like popular music today, it's sort of got a nostalgic feel to it. Like it's pulling stuff from previous decades. Do a show like this that reminds people of the heyday of late night. Do a late night show like this, a classy one.
The Tonight Show should have never done away with that theme song. It should have been a constant. Like they could do different renditions of it, but they should have kept it all through Leno and Conan's brief tenure and then into Fallon.
Yes. Yes, and Pinkava from Politically Incorrect Knitters. Do it, Keri. I would watch the crap out of that. This is I would, the funny thing is whenever I pitched, when I was in entertainment and worked in entertainment, I was always pitching with someone like a star of something. I was pitching with clients, like with comedians that I represented. And so it was always like their ideas. I had some input sometimes, but it was never, if I got to pitch my own thing and wasn't attached to some person, it would be this and nobody would listen to me. But how cool would that be? Oh my God.
That would be awesome.
And I mean, you have the band, the Set Your Own Classy Self. Oh my gosh. What if we build a set?
Build it and they will come.
What if we build a set? Would you be the host? Would you finally show your face if there was money?
I don't know about
that. Okay, here we go. I think you'd be a great host. Okay.
Ruckus on the bus with the Yankees, and Mr. Phil Linz was playing the harmonica. And Mr. Barra didn't like Mr. Linz playing the harmonica. I'm going to take Phil Linz aside. After all, since CBS bought him, he's trying to get on the original amateur hour. You see what happened? And, well, the way they're playing, the whole team might get on the original amateur hour. 4 in a row. But Linz was playing. Yogi wanted him to stop. And so Yogi made a rather novel suggestion as to the disposal of Linz's harmonica. Mr. Linz, not being an acrobat, declined. So he tossed it up in the air. Linz tossed the harmonica in the air. Yogi swatted it, and it hit Joe Pepitone on the knee, and Pepitone is charged with the error. That is the way it's all peaceful. I understand.
I don't know who those people are. Baseball players from the 1960s. So Carson showed a lot of strength because he was a liberal person, but he purposely made the choice not to get very political on his show, unlike today. Now, some of his guest hosts would, like Harry Belafonte, who was Democrat and very, very leftist, and he would talk about civil rights and all sorts of issues. But Johnny himself never really got into it that much because he didn't want to alienate, half of the audience.
It's the Dolly Parton approach, although Dolly's getting a little tiny bit away from the Dolly Parton approach in her later years, but in general, that's the Dolly Parton approach. Like, why would you alienate people because they have different political opinions than you?
Right. Well, it's like I remember some reporter asked Michael Jordan back in the heyday something about him, endorsing Democrats or bashing Republicans or something, and he said, "Hey, Republicans buy my shoes too," and so he didn't want to become political because he knew
Yes.
that there's a bunch of people who buy his shoes that he might not necessarily agree with on a bunch of things.
I remember that. Okay. What's this clip?
So this is the infamous axe throwing. It's pretty funny. Play a little bit of it.
By the way, somebody asked in the chat, Aaron asked, did you already watch Jimmy Kimmel Cry joined late? No, we are going to watch it.
Yes. We might watch it twice.
We're not so great at chasing the algorithm. So instead of just doing clips of current late night shows host crying, we are doing a retrospective of all of late night, the beginning, the heyday, the good times, and then we're going to end with the crying. We really feel that you can get more bang for your buck. You can really get the tears worth if you build it up in context with how great late night used to be, and then watch the pathetic Jimmy Kimmel crying.
Yeah, he's crying because nobody's watching him anymore, and he realizes how bad his show has become.
Okay, this is Johnny Carson, 1965.
Legendary moment. Ed Ames teaching Johnny Carson how to throw a tomahawk on The Tonight Show in 1965.
Extended, and that way you break the microphone. You keep your arm extended and put only one revolution on the once around on the way. But
and this is one of the longest laughs from a studio audience ever recorded on television.
I didn't even know you were Jewish.
He's so good at that. He's so good at extending jokes and reviving like dead jokes. Like there'd be times when he tells these jokes during his monologue and a few people would laugh, and he'd have some little quip remark that would start making people laugh because he'd point to how the joke failed, and he was so good at that. Great comedic timing.
Okay, what's this next one?
You don't have to put this one. This is just the intro, since we already heard a little bit in the 1964 clip, but this is just one of the intros from the 70s. I just love that.
But we're going to play a little bit of the last episode. Again, 30 years.
So yeah, this was the last episode in 92. He was starting to get a little pressure to step down, and as we'll talk about a little bit, there was more competition that kind of signaled that it was time for him to move along, and we'll get into the whole war over the Tonight Show between Leno and Letterman in just a moment.
So what you're saying is that they pulled a Joe Biden on him before Joe Biden.
NBC has a habit of doing that.
And so it has come to this. I am one of the lucky people in the world. I found something I always wanted to do, and I have enjoyed every single minute of it. I want to thank the gentleman who shared this stage with me for 30 years, Mr. Ed McMahon, Mr. Doc Severinsen, you people watching. I can only tell you that it has been an honor and a privilege to come into your homes all these years and entertain you. And I hope when I find something that I want to do and I think you will like and come back, that you'll be as gracious inviting me into your home as you have been. I bid you a very heartfelt good night.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
30 years.
It's crazy to think about. And then we got Leno, but we'll get into that
Oh, and then we got Leno.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. But before we take a detour, we were kind of following the Tonight Show there for a while. And next came Leno. But before we take a detour into Leno, let's talk about Dick Cavett.
So Dick Cavett, I honestly don't know much about Dick Cavett. My first introduction to him was Forrest Gump, which those special effects have not aged well. But by the way, he's still alive. He had a very long broadcasting career from like 1968 up until I want to say late 90s, maybe 2000s. And his show was on several channels all throughout that, few decades. He was on ABC and CBS. He was on PBS for a while. Then, later in his career, he went to cable. But he briefly had maybe not briefly, a few years, he had a show on in prime time, or excuse me, late night, which was competing against the Tonight Show. And so from 1969, I believe it was, to 75. And his probably most famous interview is probably the one with not Leno, the one with John Lennon, which I found a clip of John Lennon being really weird with Yoko.
Oh, this is going to be great. Let's watch this. Before we do, I just want to say a little interesting tidbit about Dick Cavett's start in late night, because we watched a clip of Jack Paar earlier, right? So according to Wikipedia, he was a copy boy at Time magazine when he read a newspaper article about Jack Paar, who was hosting the Tonight Show at the time. And it was describing how he was concerned about his opening monologue and writing jokes and stuff. So anyway, he wrote some jokes down and he ran into Jack Paar. He went to the RCA building and ran into Jack Paar. Like, he went there to find him and found him. And he gave him the jokes, and Paar invited him to sit in the studio audience, and Paar used some of the lines, and then they hired him. Like, isn't that an crazy, just random start?
Yeah. I want to hear about that today.
Okay, here we go. John Lennon on Dick Cavett, 1971.
In any way. Okay. Tell me what you're going to do.
Oh, I'm going to get this one.
Oh, that's... What do you need, John?
Well, we listen to each other.
Listen to each other.
One of the original instructions in a book was called Touch Piece, where everybody in the audience had to touch each other. And that was long before Essalon or any of those things where people are supposed to touch each other. In 1960, she did that.
Anywhere you want.
Yeah, I'll have a listen.
Wait, I
can still hear them laughing through your head, you see.
Yes?
Talk.
Okay. For some reason I feel I should cough or something.
Is anything happening inside?
Can you hear anything?
Well, it sort of echoes like a cave. Do you want to try it? Try it. Go on. And if you move that, it comes different.
Oh, it sounds...
Go on. Hello, Dick. How are you? All right. How are you?
That's amazing.
Fine, thanks. How's Rick? He's in the kitchen with Mom. Where's Mom? She's in the house watching paper.
I didn't hear a thing.
Now, Dick, listen to me.
John, you swallowed a clock. So anywhere I want to listen to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you serious, lady?
I have no
Really?
secrets.
No?
Crazy, you know.
Well, let me close my eyes and just...
Anything happening there?
It's on her shoulder for those with bad focus on their television set. I can hear the audience. It's very strange.
I think it's a nice way of
It's
communication.
fun. Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Total communication is peace. I mean, equal peace, you know.
Listening
We can
to each
never
other.
have peace unless the whole world would have total communication. This is just a process.
There's a piece in that book called Cut Piece where most artists, when they
you're
give
not
you
playing
something,
more.
they make a painting or
Enough
a
of that
record, and
commie
you're going to go away or
speak.
something.
No, we were going to...
I could watch the rest of this. I think Yoko Ono is fascinating and often highly entertaining.
Well, they show some of their videos, and it was like they get really weird.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, so next we're going to talk about Mr. Tom Snyder, and similar in the same vein of Dick Cavett. He kind of stripped away the desk, and he did have an audience, but Oh, Dick Cavett had an audience, and Tom Snyder didn't have an audience until later in his tenure on NBC. But his show initially ran after Carson from 73 to 1981, 82-ish, right before David Letterman got the show after Carson. And so Tom Snyder was, he's kind of like I don't want to compare him to Rogan, but it's almost like podcast today where it's just two people or, one interviewer and a few people in a room that doesn't have a lot of decorations, there's no audience, no skits. It's just having a conversation. And it just kind of reminded me of what is becoming more and more popular with podcasts kind of taking over. Yeah.
Podcast. Yeah. So Dick Cavett, who we just saw, that this was we're doing a side trip away from the Tonight Show for a little bit. Dick Cavett was 1969 to 1975 on CBS. Tom Snyder, it was called The Tomorrow Show. It came on, as you said, after the Tonight Show. It was called Tomorrow or The Tomorrow Show, 1973 to 1981. And then after that, he jumped networks to CBS. In the 90s, he was the host of The Late Late Show on CBS. So this is a really famous interview that you pulled up. This is from 1979. You want to set this one up?
So this is where he interviews the members of the band Kiss, and Ace Frehley, the guitarist, is drunk off his ass. And it's just a completely unhinged interview. You can see Gene Simmons like in the edge of the corner, just like not laughing or smiling, just angry. Just what a mess it was.
This guy.
That is true. Moves like this is, it's not your regular 398 Tomacan special.
That's right. Those are 798 at Hardee's.
Tell me about your outfits. I mean, did you design your own outfits, all of you? And tell me what each outfit means. And I'll start with you, Ace.
Well, that means
I think this outfit is self-explanatory. This is part of a kind of a V shape. This is my utility belt, and we don't want to go any below than my waist area because that's reserved for concert payers.
I understand that. But, and after it's all over, they say, this is what we paid for.
And that's very cool. I always feel short. I stole this from Flash Gordon, and, I have my cape.
But you're kind of like a spaceman, huh?
No, actually, I'm a plumber.
Oh, my God.
Listen, I got a little piece of pipe backstage I'd like to have you work on.
Tell me about it.
The way he laughs is like a cartoon character. Oh my goodness.
You old sweet talker, you. But I'll tell you, I read on the sheet that they gave me where they said that it's hard to get you out of your shell.
It's hard for me to talk. I'm very introverted.
Try to cheer down. That you wanted to go for a ride in the first spaceship or a rocket ship or something like that.
I have to put this up. Randy says Ace laughs like Kamala Harris.
It's better to laugh off.
And Kevin Anderson says they should be fighting Electra Woman and Dinah Girl.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Are you referring to this?
Can I play just a tad bit more?
Sure.
Okay.
Space shuttle?
The space shuttle that you
Yes, I would prefer to have a ride on the first space shuttle if it's feasibly possible. I was speaking to Pat, and I said, you got any info,
secret ambitions?
See if you can get me a ticket on that. I'd be very interested in that because I'm into technology.
I think Ace doesn't need anything. I think he can just power himself. His own power.
Ace's limo just. I'm in your band.
Never a dull moment. Let me tell you something about Ace. When we were first starting out, we had a Mylar front to the bass drum. We would play these clubs, and we're still trying to figure out who it is that we are, what it is that we're trying to put across. And Ace ultimately. Ace, yeah, look at him. Hi, Mom. Ace ultimately would look into the Mylar and start laughing at himself.
And I thought he liked me, Kevin.
Having a rotten time, right, Tom?
I'm having an awful time.
Take it easy. It'll get better.
Such a okay.
Amazing. Okay.
You don't have to pull up the next one. That was just the other link is just a full episode. unless you want to watch it.
No. Let's move on because we have a lot on the list, and we still have to
Yes.
get to Jimmy Kimmel crying. So
Countdown to Jimmy Kimmel crying.
countdown to the worst of the worst. Did you like my thumbnail? I put him at the bottom.
Yes. If
Good.
I voted. What did he actually have that sticker on his head, or did you put that?
Yes. No, he put that on his head. He put that I voted sticker on his head, and he put it on his Instagram.
He's lost it.
Okay. Joan Rivers.
Yeah. Good old Joan Rivers, female comedian who she originally went on The Tonight Show in 1965. She was a guest on there up until the 80s. She was actually guest hosted when Johnny was out. He had a bunch of guest hosts, but she was a regular guest host. And they had a great relationship. She was, very controversial, especially now, if you watch some of her jokes. And she ended up getting a talk show on Fox in 86. Now, she didn't tell Johnny about this until after the deal was done. And when she called him up to tell him, he hung up on her and never spoke to her again. And he said that he felt betrayed, not because she decided to have a show that went opposite of his that was running at the same time, but because she didn't tell him about it until everything was done. And she said the reason why she didn't tell him about it because she was afraid that word of the deal with her and Fox was going to leak out and it might jeopardize that deal. And so, I mean, I can understand Johnny being upset if a friend, someone you've had on your show, didn't tell you about it. But I am surprised he held that grudge for the rest of his life. And it's kind of sad that they never were able to reconcile that, because he banned her from the Tonight Show. And even when Jay Leno took over, Jay decided not to have her on because he didn't want to upset Johnny. And she didn't come back on until 2014 when Jimmy Fallon took over the Tonight Show. I think it was the very first episode, and she was like 80 years old at that point. And it's just kind of sad because you watch some of the clips of her and Johnny, and they had great chemistry. It's just sad that happened between them.
It's amazing, and she considered him her mentor until he cut her off.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty crazy. You never know what's going on behind the scenes, though. But so, The Late Show starring Joan Rivers. I thought it was called The Joan Rivers Show.
No, I think it was just The Late Show, I think.
Okay, here we go.
Color suit. We have the best show for you today. I'm so glad you're here this evening. We have Kate Jackson, who is just incredible. Hugh Hefner, a man who has seen more chess than the Colonel. Blew that joke. Hugh Hefner, a man who has seen more breasts than the Colonel Sanders. Okay. Michael McDonald. From St. Elsewhere's, Howie Mandel, who is just so wonderful. What is really exciting more than anything, yesterday in New York City, they had a master dog look-alike contest. I don't know if any of you saw it. And I was one of the finalists. The grand prize... Thank you. The grand prize was $10,000, and I entered with my dog, Spike. We didn't win, unfortunately. We got honorable mention. But I am proud to say I was also named honorary bitch, so that makes me very happy. But let me show you. Would you like to see Spike and me together? This is what... Yeah, okay.
Oh,
run, Tiger. That's going to happen to you.
This is going to be on our show. We're going to have Tiger in a little wig. We're going to put him in a little wig like that, or a little hat. He's going to wear a hat.
Surprised you haven't done that already.
Yeah, that's what's happening. I noticed you put a little special guest clip in here.
I think you'll like this. I think you'll like it.
Just for me?
Yeah, just for you, Keri.
So tell me what this was.
So she had some guest host that would fill in, and this particular person is a
one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Huey Herman guest hosting on the Joan Rivers The Late Show 1987.
Entire show in character. It's great.
my name. Don't wear it out. Hello. I'm a little bit nervous. I want to welcome everybody to my first stint as a guest host. Hopefully not my last. And I'd like to read a little telegram I received from Miss Joan Rivers tonight.
How could you not love him? We were just in Germany, and our friend's 12-year-old son, who is he speaks English very well now. And I showed him a clip of Pee Wee Herman from the Big Adventure movie where he's making breakfast, and the contraption that he built for breakfast, and he loved it. Like, even it holds up. It holds up to children, even children in other countries who are not from America. It was,
That's one of my favorite movies, and I know one of your favorite movies. Great movie. Co-written by Phil Hartman, directed by Tim Burton, music by Danny Elfman. It's just such a weird movie that just works. And like you said, it aged so well.
It holds up. Okay, moving right along.
We are going to Mr. Arsenio Hall. So Arsenio Hall was one of the guest hosts on Joan Rivers' show. And when she got fired, there was kind of something happened between her husband, who's a producer, and one of the execs at Fox. And they fired her husband. And I guess she took his side, and then she got fired. And they brought in Arsenio Hall they tried to make him a permanent guest host, but he already had a commitment to do Coming to America. And so when that show, the Joan Rivers show, finally officially got canceled, somebody reached out to Arsenio, decided to have him do a show, which was syndicated. It was on a number of local CBS affiliates as well as Fox affiliates. But this kind of put the nail in the coffin for the Johnny Carson's tenure at the Tonight Show, because I really wish we could play the Saturday Night Live clip, but there was a skit where Dana Carvey as Johnny Carson he portrayed Johnny Carson as trying to be like Arsenio, where he had like a high top fade. And he's wearing these big boxy, like New Jack Swing type of suits, and he's trying to be cool, like, hello, let's say hello to my dog Pound. Yes. And Carson said when he saw that, he was like, okay, when they start making fun of you, you know when it's time to go. And so it was a huge influence on his decision to finally step down from the Tonight Show. But Arsenio, I think he forever changed late night television, because it was around the same time that Living Color came out, and this is kind of the same time when hip hop in general was starting to go mainstream. Don't play that stuff.
Well, this is
you can play it though, or don't.
No, I'm not playing the sound, but this is the Dana Carvey as Johnny Carson as Arsenio Hall, and without the sound, so we don't get a copyright strike. There we go. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The Carsenio show. Wait. Look at him. You don't even need the sound. The visual is great. So good.
You'll have to watch that after, but it's hilarious. Phil Hartman as Ed McMahon, and it's hilarious too. But yeah, Arsenio just had the hip, cool vibe and appealed to a much younger demographic. And so there was Arsenio mania, like the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s period. It was just awesome.
Can I play this now?
Yeah, it's the intro. Yeah.
Here we go.
From Stage 29 at Paramount Studios on Melrose Avenue in the heart of Hollywood, California, in the United States. On the planetary dollar, it's the Arsenio Hall Show, starring Arsenio Hall. Tonight, Arsenio Hall.
It's just high energy. It's so 90s. It's very, this is just a symbol of the 90s. And that makes that sketch to Dana Carvey funnier to me. trying to do this.
Cheer star George Wendt. The hot country sounds of Larry Gatlin and the Gatlin Brothers. And comedian Will Nurse.
It's so different. It's so different. Think back to the clips we've seen so far, starting in 1949, all the way through, and then everything is we're talking about how classy it is and everything, and then you get to the 90s. It's like it's the 90s.
Yeah.
It's so different.
Oh,
The audience is like the audience is different. You know? Oh man. Okay. This is great.
I put the clip of the we played before, but the one where he had the gay activists.
Yes.
Yeah. Thought maybe play just a little bit of it again because
Wasn't
you want to
this
see that today. You would not at all.
Was it Larry Kramer? Who was it? Or maybe he wasn't a well-known activist. I'm confusing it.
I forget. So these activists decide to crash one of his tapings in the middle of him, giving a monologue or talking. They start yelling out, telling him that he needs to have some these specific gay actors or people on the show, and he gets pissed off.
He goes off. We're gonna watch. This is great. I remember this clip. Thank you, first of all, to Pirate Tomsky for £2. The super chat says, the 90s, back when we had hope in the West.
Yeah.
Hope is back, baby. Mystery Chris, without even realizing where I borrowed it from, all week when I've been doing streams, I've been doing this. Because we won. And it's from Arsenio Hall.
I always know when something good happens. I do that. Like young people have no idea what I'm doing. But
young people don't know. But I didn't even think about where that comes from. It's Arsenio.
It's the dog pound. Yeah.
Cynthia Carter says, dang, you guys have me tripping on my teens, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is our childhood. Okay. Here we go. We're gonna watch him yell at this activist. This is how Arsenio Hall, late night show in the 90s, handled a woke activist.
The blonde girl's so funny while they were singing. She said, oh my God, it was so funny, so funny. Huh? I'm sorry, I can't hear you, man. Why don't I have any gay guests on my show? Wait, I'm sorry. Why don't I have any gay guests on my show? Well, there are a lot of gay guests who really don't like to talk about their sexual preference, so we don't know whether they're gay or not. You know? Now, this ain't Merv. You didn't think I'd run from this, did you? This ain't Johnny. I ain't gonna run from it. I'm gonna deal with it. Who would you like me to have on my show that's gay that maybe I haven't had? Who? I don't know Gus Van Sant, but I know Elton John. He's been here and he's rocked the house. Okay? Okay? What? When Harvey has something I'm interested in, I'll bring him on the show. But this is my show, okay? This is my show. This is my show. You understand? This is my show. This is my show, man. You think I haven't had somebody on the show because they're gay? What's wrong with you, man? I'm black. I'm black, man. I'm black, man. I'm the biggest minority you know about. I don't want to hear that gay trash, man. I got gay friends I've had on the show because you don't know them or it ain't who you want on the show. You got a problem with it. If you want to book it, get yourself a show. Now sit down so I can do the show. You've had your say and I've had mine.
They should start playing the music again, like dun, 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 dun. Like that was like the beginning, yeah.
Imagine what Jimmy Kimmel would do. He'd start groveling, get down on his knees, beg for
Yes.
forgiveness, and cry.
Oh man, that was good.
Oh, Arsenio. So Arsenio, he was fun. He was entertaining. He wasn't the best interviewer. Being honest, like there was actually an interview he did with Frank Zappa where Frank Zappa was making fun of him the whole time, like in the interview, because of the bad questions he was asking. But Arsenio's his popularity started to decline in the early '90s because when Letterman got the show on CBS, a lot of local affiliates dumped the Arsenio show and started showing his show, and then Fox. For whatever reason, Fox demanded that their affiliates dump Arsenio and play the Chevy Chase show, the infamous Chevy Chase show, which lasted for 5 weeks. And that worked out well. But even when his show ended, they didn't go back to Arsenio's show. And so, for whatever reason, Arsenio, towards the end of his tenure at his show, decided to perform Seppuku and have Louis Farrakhan on, which was very, very controversial looking. And he ended up walking away from the show. And they did bring his show back in, I think it was 2013, like a decade ago. It only lasted for a year or so, but it didn't have the same magic. But
Yeah, it doesn't have
I
the
just,
magic. It only lives
doesn't.
in the 90s.
Yes, because so much of what I love Arsenio's show is because of how it captured the zeitgeist
Yes.
of the early 90s. And it's just kind of a time capsule. That's why I just love watching those old episodes. And that intro and all that, it just brings me back.
It takes you right. It's a time capsule. Yes, Terry. He wasn't a great interviewer, but it was a fun show, though. Yes, and it is very. I mean, I think of something like Carson as timeless, and I think there's some evidence to that. I mean, it lasted 30 years, but Arsenio, I think of as distinctly 90s. Like that's what it was about. That's the theme of the show. That's the vibe, the music, the energy, all of it, the cultural references. It's just hard to take it out of that,
And I really wish we could play Silent Live clips because there was another Arsenio skit they did with Rob Lowe where he plays Arsenio Beckman, which is just some guy who's trying to copy Arsenio. And it was just so funny because they're like making fun of like the audience and like the dog pound. Like they have like a chicken move. It's like they're doing like some weird kind of chicken wing dance in the audience. It's funny. I think it's one of the most underrated skits on Saturday Night Live. You'll have to watch it sometime. But
Well, ask and you shall receive. We're just going to look at a second of it without any music so we don't get a copyright strike. I just want to see him in the haircut. Why is this all so funny?
Because it's got to like the audience, like how crazy the audience.
Yeah, the audience is just like they're basically this is like excellent satire.
Yes.
And it was timely, like they were doing it in the moment, Look at the audience going crazy. This is no Johnny Carson audience. He's doing the chicken dance. Oh man.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, you
have to watch it
you don't need to
sometime.
listen to it. Oh boy. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Okay. Moving on. We've got to get back to the Tonight Show. Where we left you with the Tonight Show was in 1992 after Johnny Carson had departed. And there was a battle. Wasn't there a battle to see who would be the host?
Yeah, so Letterman and Leno both did stand up on Carson's show, and Leno was one of the guest hosts. I think Letterman's one of the guest hosts as well, but Leno became a permanent guest host. And so as the executives in the mid 80s started thinking that Johnny was getting close to retire, there was a controversy over who was going to replace him. Joan Rivers thought she was in line to do it, and apparently she wasn't, and that's one reason why she took her show. But they ended up going with Leno, and I don't think Carson was actually for that. Later, he would come out and say he was actually in favor of Letterman getting it, but they went with Leno because Leno's more of a company man. He's kind of a yes man. He's very non-confrontational, and Dave had a reputation of being not so easy to work with. He's very insecure. You actually read about a lot of performances he's given where everyone's laughing. I think he's great, and then he'll go backstage and be like, "I sucked. I hate it," and he's very insecure, and so he's a little grumpy at times, and NBC stupidly thought that they could keep both because Leno was getting more and more popular, and there were other networks that were going to give him a show. And so they were like, okay, let's make him host the Tonight Show, and we can keep Dave in his time slot, which was right after the Tonight Show. But Dave ended up taking a gig with CBS. And what interesting thing that happened was that with Leno, when they gave him the Tonight Show, they signed him to an 18-month contract. And he wasn't doing well in the ratings. And towards the end of his contract, NBC actually made the decision to give the Tonight Show to Letterman, even after he had already had the Tonight Show. And so Letterman thought about it, and everyone around him was like, don't do this. Like, it's a terrible decision. The contract's bad. Plus, why would you want to go to NBC after the way they treated you? And so he ended up passing on it and doing the show with CBS. But you'll see hallmarks of this with what happens with Leno and Conan, because it's such the same thing. Like, they're just going to get rid of Leno and screw him. And so, yeah.
Wow. So where should we start with Leno? Should I start with his first episode of The Tonight Show and then jump backwards, or what? Where do you want me to start?
Let's see. Do you want to show a little bit of stand-up?
Sure.
I'll just show a little bit of it. Showed that like he was actually like funny at one point in time.
He was. Leno was once funny.
Yeah, he had a respect of a lot of comedians. Norm Macdonald loved him and said he was a great stand-up comedian, and for a reason he kind of just I don't know, I wouldn't say dumbed down his act, but it just became more, like I said earlier, dad joke-ish.
It's not exactly the same skill set.
Yes.
Like some of them can do both, but it's not exactly the same skill set. Just like there are some comedians who kill it in the written word on Twitter. Back when Twitter had a limited number of letters that you could use or characters you could use, and there were some comics who were just brilliant at that. Like every single tweet was a hilarious one-liner, but then on stage they weren't that funny. It's different medium. So the fact that he was a really good stand-up, but not, in my opinion, not that great of a talk show host, it's like they're not necessarily the same skill set. I just wanted to say thanks to Aaron Smithy, who looks like Arsenio in that little South Park image, for $4.99. Thanks for the super chat. Says the 90s only second to the 80s. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And ADL 1992 for $1.99. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us, dude. Good to see you. Okay.
Well, it's funny you say that because a lot of the NBC executives said the same thing about Leno. Like when he started the Tonight Show, wasn't doing well, they remarked at how he went through his material pretty quickly, like whatever he'd been doing stand-up at the time.
Yeah, he does it. He goes through it quickly. You're gonna run out of that. And Randy Wallen says Jay was a brilliant comic. Did you see him in the boxing ring with his mother in the movie Americathon, Pure Gold? I never saw that. Did you?
And I didn't. I need to go watch. I know he's in at least one other movie from. I forget the name of the movie. It's like a really bad cheesy movie from the '80s that he's disowned. But I really would go back and watch it.
Okay, here we go. This is some stand-up from Jay Leno in 1976. You hear it?
No, I don't.
Oh man. Okay.
I blame Jay Leno for this. Wow.
This is we got to figure out what's going on with my StreamYard. It does this sometimes. I'm gonna leave and come back. I'm gonna leave you here by yourself, and I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Just like Jack Paar walking off the show. Yeah, well, it's just me now. Ha 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 ha. Yes. So let's go to the comments. Let's see what you people are saying in the comments. Oh, you're back.
Walking off the show. ADL 1992, thank you for the super chat. For $4.99 says, I get the sense that Carson's departure was the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or the Tonight Show at least.
Okay, we're gonna try this now.
Fingers crossed. But Jay, I think Jay still does stand up occasionally. I have watched some of his videos he does with his cars, and actually pretty entertaining. He did one with Tim Allen, and he blindfolds Tim Allen and takes him a ride in cars, and Tim Allen like guesses like what kind of car he's in. It's pretty awesome.
Everybody says he's great when he's talking about cars.
Yeah, the only thing he cares about, I guess.
Okay.
California. It's a Pirates
Can you hear that?
Yep.
Cove. You have the nude beach. You know, I never realized about the nude beach. They actually have nude vendors. I cannot buy food from a nude 300-pound man. Get your hot dogs here. Nothing for me, thank you. I'll have some sand or something. They closed the nude beach. They got cops down there arresting people for nude bathing. Ridiculous charges. Is that your penis? Let's go. I'm sorry. What's the charge? Possession. Get in the way.
Okay, that's it.
I'm watching the producer back there. He's going, are you sure this guy is a friend of Freddie's? Such a tacky club, the Improv. And did you look at the menu here? My favorite thing on Bud's menu is soup and black bread. Did you see that? Go to prison. You get all the soup and black bread you want. It's got a $5 cover here, too. Beer and wine, $5 cover. It's always nice to stand here and try and watch people drink $5 worth of wine. We've had 9 glasses, Bud. How much is that? $1.07.
How much was wine back then? Goodness.
I mean, it was cheap, right?
I need a time machine so I could get drunk.
$5 won't cover a glass of wine today.
That makes me depressed too. Like I see old clips like this, and people are talking about like how like pricey, expensive things were. Like it's like 1965. Like, oh, movie ticket costs 10 cents. What is the world coming to? Like,
yeah, it is depressing. It's so different. Just to put yourself back in that time period and think about how far the dollar went.
yeah.
Okay, so what's this clip?
So this is a clip of Jay Leno going on Letterman's show. So they were friends at one point in time. You know, they would go on each other's shows. They knew each other from stand up, and Jay would go on Letterman's show a lot. As you can see, this is just part 1 of 3, and this is 2 hours and 50 minutes of interviews of Jay Leno on Letterman.
It's just a compilation of all the times they would appear together.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. By the way, question for you from the chat. Old school millennial says, is Mystery Chris single? And is he a MAGA man?
I'm a Kamala person. No, I'm not a Kamala person. What do you call it?
Gross.
Black man identifies as a white man for a Kamala. No, I am MAGA, yes. And yes, single as well.
Hold on. I'm trying to make you on the screen by yourself. I don't know how to do it. Never mind.
What I look like.
I was going to run some music and have you do a little ad. And I'm single and I enjoy MAGA and long walks on the beach.
I like Star Trek. I dress up as a Vulcan.
Do you dress up as a Vulcan?
I only did that once, Keri.
Okay.
It was actually a Halloween story. I won't go into it now. I'll tell you later.
Halloween. Okay.
It's a great Halloween. Well, not so great, but it's a Halloween story.
Deranged Lunatic DL is here. Thank you so much for the $1.99 super chat. He says, to me, Craig Ferguson was the last good show host.
Agreed.
Yeah, I knew Mystery Chris was going to agree with that, so we put that up.
This cracked me up.
Okay, we're gonna watch just a little bit.
Yeah, this is you don't have to watch much, and we still got a lot to get through. So.
Video journalist John Alford, and also for the first time anywhere on American television, it's very important, and we're very excited about it. Elevator race. My first guest, Leno, is an actor, a comedian. He has been featured in numerous films and television programs. Aside from his acting talents, he is also And this is true. One of the best nightclub comics working in today. Please welcome Jay Leno.
Look how complimentary he is. One of the
It's
best.
weird going back and seeing like how friendly they were.
How much they liked each other.
You skip ahead. It's just him doing stand-up for a little bit.
Huh?
You skip ahead a little bit. I just wanted to show them sitting together. It's just...
We're going to pause here. It's a special night, isn't it?
Oh,
and
boy.
I'm
Glitter, the tinsel, it literally seems to come alive. Doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen?
We're going to pause for a commercial. We'll be...
They're friends.
Yeah. But you don't have to show anymore. I just wanted to show that. They actually did do a Super Bowl commercial a few years ago. It was them sitting on a couch with Oprah in the middle. And Dave's like complaining, and Jay's like, "Oh, it's because I'm here." And she's like, guys, calm down. So I was like, wow, they actually got them in a room together.
Wow. Pretty crazy. At least they're talking or appearing in a commercial together, like you said, in a room together, unlike Johnny Carson and Joan Rivers.
I'm sure the money helps.
The money.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was from the first episode of after Jay Leno won that battle, and he was the one to take over the reins of the Tonight Show after Carson left. This is from the very first episode of the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, 1992.
Where the candidates stand on the issues. I mean, all we know for sure is that Ross Perot hasn't said anything, Bush hasn't done anything, and Clinton hasn't inhaled anything. That's all we know.
I mean, that's pretty good. It's not like the partisan stuff we get today. At least he's taking a little funny shot at each of them.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
how sad it is that we're complimenting a really bad
Yeah.
joke from the 90s. Because, well, at least he poked
Yeah.
fun at all of them, even though it wasn't well done joke. But yeah.
This is what I know we had, let's see how the poll was doing. In the chat, we had a poll of these four, who was your favorite? I'm just curious where people are voting. Carson, 42%. Ferguson, 25%.
Yeah.
Second place. Wow. Letterman, 23%, and Leno, 11%. I mean, there's 11% of the people watching who Leno was their favorite. I don't know.
I hate Leno. I don't hate him.
I don't hate him. I just didn't laugh very much. But I was also young, so I don't know.
I kind of went back and forth, between Leno and Letterman and stuff. But after all these years, I'm like, Leno, meh.
What's this famous one that you've got here?
So this is the famous Hugh Grant interview. And so Leno wasn't doing great in the ratings initially. He started to pick up a little bit, but what's really sent him over the top and allowed him to become the number one late night talk show, overtaking Letterman's show, was this interview he did with Hugh Grant. So Hugh Grant, like a couple days before this interview, got caught with a prostitute in LA. And this interview had been scheduled prior to that incident, and Hugh Grant was going to cancel it. But Jay Leno's people are like, no, you should come on a show. It'll be great. You need to diffuse things. So just come on and just own it, and we'll have some fun and stuff. And so he did it. And this was a huge ratings hit for Tonight Show.
Okay, I'm going to have to leave again because my audio stopped. I'll be right back.
Ay. Oh, technology. Trump needs to put somebody in charge of YouTube too. I wish Elon would buy YouTube. I guess he'd have to buy Google too, but that'd be nice.
I'm back.
Hey.
At least it wasn't long. Here we go.
Thank you, Hugh. There you go. Let me start with question number 1. What the hell were you thinking? No, I don't say that. I don't say that to be glib, but I think among most people going, what?
Yeah. Well, it's not easy. The thing is, people give me tons of ideas on this one. I keep reading new, psychological theories and stuff like that. That I was under pressure, I was overtired, or I was lonely, or I fell down the stairs when I was a child, or whatever. But I think that would be bollocks, really, to hide behind something like that. I think in life pretty much what's a good thing to do and what's a bad thing. And I did a bad thing, and there you have it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's...
We don't play anymore, but...
What has...
I never understood why, like, good-looking guy who's rich would go after prostitute. Like, you're in LA, you're a celebrity, got money. Why do you need to go after prostitute?
It's fascinating to me. I want to rewatch this whole thing later because you get caught doing something really disgusting and degenerate. And didn't he have a girlfriend at the time too?
Was he Liz Hurley?
Yes.
Yeah. Cheated on her.
Yes. Were
She's
they
still
just
smoking too?
Yes. Elizabeth Hurley, Hugh Grant. Hold on. Let me just look something up. Yeah. They dated for 13 years from 1987 to the year 2000. Faced challenges, including Grant's arrest in 1995 for soliciting a sex worker. I just this may have garnered Leno lots of attention and clicks and all of that. It reminds me of kind of like the drama sphere on YouTube when somebody's going through something disgusting and everyone's like, let's get clicks, and I don't know. I'm sure it was good for his ratings, but was it the best idea for Hugh Grant? I don't think so.
Well, he recently played a Oompa Loompa in Charlie and Chocolate Factory. So yeah, there we go.
I'm just saying at the time when you do something like that, I'm like, I don't think you're ready to go on television a few days later and talk about, like, you haven't even had time to process the shame of it and to actually reach, if you have real remorse or repentance, it's like, what are you coming on to even tell us? It's not like you've had time to even grow from that stupid choice of yours. Just sort of, I don't know. This is a part of entertainment that I find gross.
Yeah, I think it's just trying to, in a way, kind of make light, because he knew Leno was going to be, funny and kind of making jabs and stuff, and maybe he thought that was the quickest way to make it go away.
He went on there for his image after getting caught doing something filthy. I don't like Hugh Grant. Okay.
So we're now getting into David Letterman. So David Letterman, who started up in stand-up, and I believe he was doing news too in the 70s, and he ended up getting a show which replaced Tom Snyder's show after Carson's show. And so I just want to show the intro for Late Night, and then we can show one of the interviews, or the infamous Andy Kaufman, Jerry Lawler interview.
Okay, and we, once again, let me know if the sound's working on this.
All right.
Goodness.
Yep.
from New York. Remember, when civilization comes to an end, we were way ahead of you. It's Late Night with David Letterman. Tonight, Sammy Davis Jr., Fun with Sonics with Dr. Richard Brandt, and Whistler Francisco Hernandez. Also, a look at people who won't be on the show, and Rush with Stupidity. And now, a man who sweats while he works and whistles while he snores, David Letterman.
Paul Schaefer.
Paul Schaefer, everybody.
He was on Saturday Night Live. Did you know he's in the original Saturday Night Live band? Paul Schaefer.
Original?
Yeah.
No.
70s, yeah. Every time I see Paul Schaefer, I think about Norm Macdonald's impression of David Letterman on Saturday Night Live. Norm would go, "Hey, Paul, hey, got any gum?" And then Mark McKinney as Paul Schaefer go, "It's funny because you asked for gum." Like, hey, got any gum? Norm was great.
Norm was great.
But yeah, you don't have to show anymore. This one's show the intro. Good old Letterman.
I just want
to very popular with college kids. He was a little bit. You could tell he had an influence on Conan.
Oh, he had a huge influence on Conan. So during this time, we jumped from Leno to Letterman, but we didn't really give you the date. So Leno, after he won that late night war and he got the Tonight Show, 1992, he had it from 1992 to 2009. Then Conan O'Brien briefly had it for a year. 1 year, Conan O'Brien, the Tonight Show. Then they gave it back to Letterman.
Or Leno.
Sorry, to Leno. They gave it back to Leno, 2010 to 2014 on NBC.
Yeah, we'll get to that controversy.
We'll get to that in a second. But late night, David Letterman was doing late night on NBC from 1982 to 1993. And then from 1993 until 2015. So after, he didn't get the Tonight Show, he went to CBS with the Late Show, 1993 to 2015.
And in this clip I put in there of Andy Kaufman versus Jerry Lawler, I actually blame this clip for why so many people thought that the Chris Rock slapping or Will Smith slapping Chris Rock was fake, because people don't know what's real anymore. And this is the infamous moment where Jerry Lawler slaps Andy Kaufman. So they had a wrestling match prior, and Andy Kaufman acted like he was seriously hurt. And things go out of control here. And by the way, once Kaufman leaves, you can choose to pause it or keep going, but he comes back and drops a bunch of F-bombs. It's uncensored. So up to you if you want to hear a bunch of F-bombs. But...
Yeah, it's okay. Here we go. This is, again, just like the clip we just saw. This is from the NBC show that Letterman was on called Late Night, 1982 to 1993. This is before the Late Show.
Everybody that thinks that way.
You're lucky I didn't sue you.
It was a chance to show them exactly what it's really like.
If there were,
would you?
Because let me tell you something. My father said, my manager said, they all said that I had a right. I could have gotten a lawyer and I could have sued you for what you did, and I didn't. And all I want is an apology. Even you asked me last time I was on your show if I was going to have a lawsuit, and I could have sued you. I could have sued you for everything you're worth.
Well,
and I didn't, because I'm not that kind of a guy.
Yeah. You know what?
What kind of a guy are you?
You're not the kind of guy you're.
I'll just be over here. We're going to pause here for station identification and get the hose shot.
Okay, cut it there because it comes back. But people didn't know if this was real or not. For years, people thought this was like real, legitimate. Like Jerry Lawler went crazy, slapped the crap out of Andy Kaufman, but in typical Andy Kaufman fashion, it was a troll.
That's why you're saying that's why people thought that the Chris Rock slap was fake.
Yeah.
Or some people did. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was obviously not fake. We talked about that, but Okay, what's this next one?
I was just queued up a part of a news report talking about the Leno versus Letterman feud, I guess, over the Tonight Show. You just play a little bit of it.
Oh, wait. That's not the right one. Hold on.
I think I put the right one in there.
In the middle of this fray, Jay Leno, who inherited
That's as loud as the sound will go, by the way.
hosting duties from Johnny Carson last May. Letterman was reportedly furious when passed over for the job, but despite the ongoing controversy, Leno was all smiles on last night's show, even joking about the Letterman affair.
It's CBS. Hello. Well, thank you. Thank you. But, oh, no, this is Jay. No, I think you want David. Yeah. Can you call back in an hour?
But off camera, Leno too is getting fed up with NBC's indecision. Advertising executive Bill Katz of the BBDO ad agency says no matter who comes out on top, it's the advertisers who will really win.
We believe controversy is good as long as it's harmless, and this is good old harmless.
Is it harmless for the guys that you're jerking around, not letting them know which one's got the job? I think all controversy is good for us, the advertisers.
They're all sociopaths. We think this will generate a lot of money.
So, Conan O'Brien.
Conan O'Brien. So when Letterman went to CBS, take that show opposite of the Tonight Show, there was a void for the Late Show after the Tonight Show. And there were a number of people that were being thrown around. Someone earlier, one of our chatters, joked about the Larry Sanders Show, but Gary Shandling was actually rumored to actually have gotten the show. Dana Carvey was actually rumored to have gotten a show, but he wanted to follow Letterman. He didn't want to follow I keep calling him Leno. And so that didn't happen. But Lorne Michaels pitched the idea of having Conan O'Brien, who was a writer on SNL in the late 80s, and then went to write for The Simpsons. And surprisingly, he got the job because he obviously had no experience in doing talk shows. And so I put in a clip of 1993, right after Conan's show first started. And if you ever watch any of those clips from his early shows, like he is not polished whatsoever. It's very awkward. And it's just amazing, like what he ended up becoming.
Yes. Okay. This sound's not working. OMG. OMG. Okay. Let's try it on this one.
What's going on?
So, but this is not a clip of his show. This is Al Roker.
Yes.
So set this up while I get it going.
So this is a news clip of, I forget what channel it was, but they're interviewing Conan right after his show started. And you kind of see he's very humble and stuff. Oh, yes, from Talk Soup. So Greg Kinnear introduces the Conan.
Like a great big hat that's used as a satellite dish to pick up psychic readings. This is Talk Soup. Greg Kinnear back with you. Monday, NBC announced David Letterman's replacement to host the network's late night show. Speculation had been brewing for a long time that it'd be taken over by either Gary Shandling or myself. Shandling couldn't do it for logistical reasons. I, on the other hand, had already committed to a whole lineup of Flowbee infomercials that'll be airing this fall, so look forward to that. The man who got the coveted job is a relatively unknown writer-comedian named Conan O'Brien. On Monday's Tonight Show, Jay Leno introduced him to America for the very first time. Here now is the new owner of the nightly 12:30 p.m. slot on NBC.
We found a gentleman. He just signed a contract a couple hours ago? Hours ago. Just found out about this. The gentleman who is a writer on Saturday Night Live, won an Emmy. Right, won an Emmy on Saturday Night Live. Works on The Simpsons. Lorne Michaels, who you know from Saturday Night Live, will be producing the show. And I thought, come by. Nobody knows this guy. Nobody's seen him. And I thought you might want to say hello. Mr. Conan O'Brien, come on out here.
How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks a lot.
Look how tall he is.
No. How old are you? What, you're 29?
I just turned 30, actually.
Oh, that's pretty good. I was still at Chuckles when I was 30, so that's good. See, I'm a gig. Are you excited about this? Is it fun?
Yeah, well, I found out about 8 hours ago. I was eating a big sandwich, and they called me on the phone and said, I had this job. This is seriously true. and I'm thrilled. I mean, it's something I've wanted to do all my life. I'm ecstatic.
And like right here tonight is like your first time on TV.
Well,
and you know, Dave Letterman is a legend here at NBC, and if there's anything that's fun to do, it's replacing legends at NBC. I know.
It's okay, Greg. Maybe.
That's pretty funny.
Conan, and the thing I loved about Conan's show was how absurd the comedy was. Like they took it to extreme. I think like having that show after Tonight Show allowed them to be a little more freer, because when Conan got to Tonight Show, he kind of toned it down a bit, even though he said he wasn't, because I still think he was trying to appeal to an older demographic. But when he was doing a show after Tonight Show, he got a huge following from college students, young people that just really resonate with what he's doing. It's just very different from, kind of more, I guess, stilted, Tonight Show Jay Leno.
Mm-hmm. Part of that's because, like you said, he was so green.
Mm-hmm.
And he just...
It's very self-deprecating, part of his humor, very funny. I remember in Houston, where I'm from, for whatever reason, they used to play his show at like 2:30 in the morning. And I would always stay up and watch it anyway. But he found out about it, and he came to Houston and walked around downtown Houston at 2:30 in the morning with a portable TV, going up to people with his show on there, going, "Hey, does this person look familiar?" And the person look at TV and look at him and go, "No."
They're like, no idea.
Yeah, it's funny. This is just an intro. Just wanted to play a classic intro from, this is the original one.
Oh, yeah.
From NBC Studios in New York, it's Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Tonight, John Goodman, Drew Barrymore, and Tony Randall with the Max Weinberg 7. Why can't we feed the hungry? Wrong time for this. Now, here's your host, Conan O'Brien!
Oh, Miss Conan.
Oh, I love this show.
Yeah.
And Andy Richter, yes.
Andy Richter.
SC DeGrand says, song still slaps. Yes, it
Yeah,
does.
it does. And one of the things I liked about his interviews early on is he had a lot of C and D listers, because all the A-listers was going to the Tonight Show. And in fact, like the first time he had an A-lister on, I believe it was Harrison Ford. That was like a huge deal. Like he was so excited. I'm making a huge deal about finally getting an A-lister on. But I actually liked it better when you had the C and D listers. I found them more interesting than the regular Hollywood celebrities that just say the same anecdotes they say on every talk
and
show.
they go on every show, and yes.
Yep. Because he had Dave Chappelle on. He used to have Dave Chappelle on before Dave Chappelle was famous.
Big.
Yeah, before Killing Him Softly and before Chappelle's show. And I always loved seeing just Chappelle on the Conan show.
Yeah.
They were great together.
Randy Wallen says, another great band too, Max Weinberg. Yes.
I love Max Weinberg. So many skits. They incorporated him into so many skits too.
Yeah. It was sort of like that.
He was always like a creep. They portrayed him as like a pervy creep. It was like...
Yeah. Yeah. Just really quickly, I wanted to say hi to Pirate Tomsky. Sorry, sir. I've got a backlog of super chats from Mr. Pirate. He says Chris is actually Tim Russ. He's just shy nowadays.
Well, and that was Tuvok. That's a Vulcan character on Star Trek Voyager, and that's actually who I dressed up as when I was a kid. And I went to Halloween. This whole story, tragic story. I'll tell some other time.
Also from Pirate Tomsky for £5. Thank you. Pirate says, how much do we have to pay for a Mystery Chris only show? Keri in the background producing. Hey, I'm down for it. If Mystery Chris wants to do it, I've told him. I've tried to push him into the spotlight.
Yeah.
You got to get one of those canes, Pirate, and from the side of the stage behind the curtain, you have to rope him onto the stage. That's what we have to do. Also, Pirate Tomsky for £5. Thank you. Pirate says, can we take a moment to appreciate what Hollywood used to be like? where they would take the piss out of themselves and everyone else at the same time. Yeah, it was sort of the whole attitude was like they didn't take themselves so seriously like they do today, where they're coming out lecturing you about how you should have voted.
Yeah, well, just they're trying to stay relevant, and they have social media, which is awful. But back in the day, before social media, like all you knew about them was their appearances on talk shows and maybe some reports in the tabloids, but that's about it. And now they're free, just like anybody else, to just share their most random, stupid thoughts to the entire world. And you go,
Except
wow,
they
these
think
people are
that we're supposed to
stupid.
care.
Yeah.
Like there's this expectation, just like when they threatened to leave the country, that like we're going to care. We don't care. Like Don Lemon threatening to leave, or he did leave X today, supposedly 3 weeks later. Okay, but it's go on then, dude. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Well, like I said, they're losing relevance to all these podcasters and other, people online, and people just don't care about celebrities. So it's like they're the middle child begging for attention.
Yes.
So they're acting out, just doing the stupidest, saying the stupidest things. And people just make fun of them. And I guess that's better than no attention. But
yeah, that's what it's all for. Like Kathy Griffin is one of the biggest attention whores. Okay.
So
we're doing, this is Triumph the Insult Comic Dog, which is one of the best Conan bits. We've previously shown Triumph at the Star Wars premiere?
Yeah, Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. That was all time, or one of the best skits of all time.
Gold.
But
Okay.
yeah, Conan, like I said, Conan had the best skits yet. So many ridiculous characters, like the masturbating bear, the coked up werewolf, Pimpbot 5000, like all these. Yeah, which I, for the longest time, didn't know he's a vibrator. I had no idea.
He is?
So, you didn't know that?
No.
Yes.
I never realized that.
Yeah. But yeah, Triumph the Insult Comic Dog, played by Robert Smigel, great writer. And it's just such a bizarre. It's just a bizarre thing. Like I don't know if he's right. What is? Did they ever say where he's supposed to be from? Is he Russian?
No, I have no idea.
It's just a made-up accent.
You know you want it. Oh, yeah. Oh, goodness. All right. Okay, here's where I make my move.
Man.
No, they can't throw us out. Why? Bullshit. No, you keep the camera rolling. Look, Chubby, don't mess with me. I know Conan O'Brien. He could have all of you killed. Damn it, Conan O'Brien's the biggest entertainer in the world. For me to poop on.
For me to poop on.
Love Triumph.
Oh man, one day I got to show you when I was in Tanzania in 1999. I was there for half a year, and one of my friends there, who was an American, we got so homesick for American television, like all the little things that you miss, the little things that pop culture things and cultural food and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, we made a fake television on notebook paper. We just drew out a little TV box and we drew some of our favorite shows. And I have a photo of the Conan O'Brien where we drew the Conan O'Brien set. We had Pimpbot on there. I'll have to show it to you sometime. And it's like, oh, put on Conan. And you just put the little picture up there. It's so stupid.
Funny and sad at the same time.
Funny and sad. Just reminisce. And we're like, wonder what they're doing on Conan. We don't have any electricity. Okay.
So yeah, Conan's show got really popular. And like what I said earlier about NBC being greedy and trying to keep Leno and Letterman at the same time, they tried to do that with Conan. And Leno. So Leno was pushed out in 2009. he was still doing really well. He was #1 in the ratings for late night television, and they decided to push him out and get Conan because Conan was starting to get interest from other networks. And so what they ended up doing is giving Leno an hour-long show in prime time, which essentially is the same format as the Tonight Show. He didn't have a desk, but everything else was pretty much the same thing. And they gave Conan the Tonight Show. But the thing is, Conan's ratings weren't great. And part of the problem was that Leno was a terrible lead-in. Like his show in prime time did horribly. A lot of people don't watch it. Affiliates were mad because people weren't watching it and they weren't staying for the local news. And so they were losing out on advertising revenue. And then people weren't staying to watch the Tonight Show. And so NBC decided to move the show back after the local news to 11:35. That's Central. 11:35 Central. 12:35. No, yeah, 12:30. Excuse me. 11:35 Eastern. And they were going to push back Conan's Tonight Show to 12:05 Eastern, which Conan objected to. He was like, that wouldn't be the Tonight Show anymore. Like, you're just essentially giving Leno his show back. Essentially, it's 30 minutes now, but it's now in place of the Tonight Show. Essentially, it's the Tonight Show. And they basically gave him the ultimatum, say, either you could accept this or you can choose to walk. And Conan chose to walk. And so after Conan chose to walk, they gave Leno back his show.
Ugh.
And he stayed from 2009 or 2010, because Conan was only there for a few months, 2010 to 2014, when they gave the Tonight Show to Jimmy Fallon, who had taken Conan's place as a show after the Tonight Show.
Amazing. And what is this setup that you have here?
So let's see which one. This one is Jimmy Kimmel ripping Leno over Conan. So Leno was doing an interview with Kimmel, funny thing, and Kimmel decides to bring up Conan, which wasn't planned, and tear into Leno. Maybe the only funny thing he's done on the show. No, he's done some other funny things, but back when he was better. Let's say that, at least.
Okay, let's watch this.
Best prank you ever pulled? I think the best prank I ever pulled was I told a guy that 5 years from now, I'm going to give you my show. And then when the 5 years came, I gave it to him, and then I took it back almost instantly. Wow. It was hilarious.
Ever order anything off the TV?
Like NBC ordered your show off the TV?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I don't like in general, because you have this phony relationship with them for money, similar to that of when you and Conan were on the Tonight Show together, passing the torch.
Right, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. Yes.
We have lives to lead here. You've got $800 million. For God's sake, leave our shows alone.
I decided to sell the Tonight Show on Craigslist. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sell it on Craigslist. I'm not sure exactly how this works, but while I'm here, this feels like the thing to do. This is a real ad that we're putting on Craigslist. Take a look. For sale, barely used, late night talk show. Make me an offer. This is really out there.
Jay Leno is middle America. He represents traditional American values, the things this country was built on, like killing Indians because you want their land. Jay Leno, America's standing up for Jay.
Wow.
Leno took a lot of shots Letterman took a lot of shots at Leno over that, because Leno gave an interview. He was like, no one should, blame Conan over this. And Letterman was like, no one's blaming Conan over that, you idiot.
Yeah, no one. Everyone's blaming you.
And then I put a clip of Conan saying goodbye on the Tonight Show. Very good speech. It's very sad, because that was his lifelong dream, as it is or was for a lot of comedians and entertainers back then. But this was his goodbye before he took the TBS job, which I kept forgetting that he had a show on TBS. It was good. I just kept forgetting about it. It's TBS.
Conan.
He watches TBS.
On TBS.
By the way, that was a picture. That was a picture of our staff and our amazing crew, and let's have a hand for them, because they are amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, before we bring this rodeo to a close, I think a couple of things should be said. There's been a lot of speculation in the press about what I legally can and can't say about NBC. And this isn't a joke. To set the record straight, and this is true, tonight I'm allowed to say anything I want. And no, it's not a joke, but thanks, sir. Tonight I really am allowed to say whatever I want. And what I want to say is this. Between my time at Saturday Night Live, the late night show, and my brief run here on The Tonight Show, I've worked with NBC for over 20 years. Yes, we have our differences right now. Yes, we're going our separate ways. But this company has been my home for most of my adult life. I am enormously proud of the work we've done together, and I want to thank NBC for making it all possible. I really do. A lot of people have been asking me about my state of mind, and I'll be honest with you, walking away from The Tonight Show is the hardest thing I have ever had to do. Making this choice has been enormously difficult. This is the best job in the world. I absolutely love doing it. And I have the best staff and crew in the history of the medium. I will fight anybody who says I don't, but no one would.
This is so classy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, though, comedically, now that we know about Jack Paar, he could have done a callback to Jack Paar and just said, like, I don't have to do this. I've got there are other jobs out there. Nobody would have gotten it, though. He would have walked off with the,
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
You want to play a little more?
Yeah, I can play just a little more.
All right.
Hold on.
You can skip forward just a little bit because I think the end is the best part.
Where should I start? What?
Sure. Let's do there. I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
The signs, all this goofy, outrageous creativity on the internet. The fact that people have traveled long distances and camped out all night in the pouring rain. It's pouring. It's been pouring for days. And they're camping out to be in our audience. Really, here's what all of you have done. You made a sad situation joyous and inspirational. So to all the people watching, I can never, ever thank you enough for the kindness to me. I'll think about it for the rest of my life. And all I ask is one thing, and I'm asking this particularly of young people that watch. Please do not be cynical. I hate cynicism. For the record, it's my least favorite quality. It doesn't lead anywhere. Nobody in life gets exactly what they thought they were going to get. But if you work really hard and you're kind, amazing things will happen. I'm telling you, amazing things will happen.
Aww.
I'm telling you. It's just true. As proof, ladies and gentlemen, let's make something amazing happen right now. Here to close out our show are a few good friends led by Mr. Will Ferrell.
That's just very classy.
Great message, too.
Yes.
And that's what we were talking about earlier about how authentic so many of like Ferguson and Conan were and others at that time. The old school ones, I call them now, compared to the current crop, speaking from the heart, very articulate, they actually meant what they say.
He was one of the most authentic talk show hosts.
Mm-hmm.
This will come along later as we go further into what happened to late night, but I ended up, one of the comedians that I managed, we sold a late night show to FX. It was totally biased with W. Kamau Bell, and then it was on FXX. So it was just a year across the two networks, and it went from being a weekly show to a daily show, a nightly show, and then it was canceled. And Kamau, last I saw, we parted ways. I ended up leaving the woke ideology, left my entertainment career, left Hollywood entirely because everything I had been interested in doing when I was in entertainment was related to pushing woke ideology, including that late night show totally biased. And so, long story short, a couple years ago, I saw that like he had been on Conan. Kamau had been on Conan back when I worked with him. We went to that taping together. It was amazing. But I saw a couple years ago he was on Conan again on the new TBS show, and it was a clip of him basically doing the woke social justice come to Jesus talk with Conan. Like he was pressuring him during the lockdowns when Conan was doing shows from home. And it was basically him teaching Conan O'Brien how to be an anti-racist and lecturing him on how he needed to have a black anti-racist accountability partner to check in with, and what kind of books he needed to read and stuff like that. It was so sad. It wasn't funny. It was just ideological. It was like watching a cult conversion.
And you said that Kamau Bell is a phony. You don't believe any of that.
I don't think he believes. I think he believes some of it, but not really at the end of the day. I think he's a sincere believer at the beginning, but I think the longer you're in it, I think it becomes hard to stay a sincere believer in it. Unless you have other incentives. There are these people who push woke, who have other incentives for pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
well, I mean, most of the pro-blacks don't like black people. I mean, most of them aren't married to black people. Usually married to white women or white man, and they'll talk about how bad the white man treats us. And in reality, they don't want anything to do with black people. They're just grifters, just trying to make some money because they know they can use their race to propel themselves up the professional corporate ladder.
That's an
And I think he's
interesting
one of them.
observation. I'll have to think about that one.
No, you don't. No, I'm right, girl. Girl, you know it's true.
Anecdotally, I'm like, checks the boxes. Okay, so we're gonna have to put a pin in it, guys, because we still have over at least an hour and a half worth of clips to show you about the downfall of late night comedy, and I want to do it justice. I don't want to just rush through this, so we're gonna have to do a part 2. I'm gonna change the title of this to part 1. We're gonna come back, we're gonna do a part 2. I did promise you that we were gonna watch Jimmy Kimmel crying, and so let's just really quickly, we'll rewatch it again later, but since it's topical tonight, we're just gonna like put a little end cap on this. This is talk show host, modern day late night talk show host, comedian today. Here we go.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go.
Oh my gosh.
For our climate, science, for journalism, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, who rely on Social Security, for our allies.
See, the thing is, this is not. It's not supposed to be funny. I mean, it should be funny. It's a late night comedy show, but it's not funny. But it's funny to us because he's so pathetic and so full of shit.
In Ukraine.
Oh no!
For NATO.
Ukraine.
He's totally demented. It was a terrible night for democracy.
Throwing as many things as possible into his speech.
For poor people. Yes, Terry, for real. That's for real. That was his monologue. That was a late night. This is modern day late night comedy, late night. Think about what we showed so far in part 1 tonight of where we started, where we're at tonight. And this is where we're at. This crazy, faux, emotional, like moralizing and like he thinks he's a preacher. He thinks he's a preacher.
I want someone to do a parody of that. It's a terrible night for Ewoks and for Wookiees.
Goodness. I just ordered a Handmaid's costume, by the way. It should be here tomorrow. and I have so many plans. One of those plans is I plan to start hosting my own late night show as a handmaid in Trump's America. Just imagine you come out in front of the curtain and the handmaids in the hood and everybody's like, welcome everybody. You're just doing a late night comedy show as a handmaid in Trump's patriarchy.
It's the resistance. That's what it is.
The resistance. Every joke is just about, the patriarchy started, guys. I had to wash a dish today. It's already begun.
That's what I just think is hilarious about that 4B movement. Like protesting Christian conservatives by becoming conservative and not sleeping with men and dressing conservatively. I'm like, way to own all these supposed men that hate your body. Way to go. So dumb.
It's so dumb. It's like they've come full circle. They've discovered chastity. We've discovered chastity. And think of us, everyone in the audience also wearing the costumes. I don't know. It's funny either way. Imagine the whole audience is handmaids and they're all laughing.
We're going to patch you into Mr. Chris doing his show. Now it's just all black people in chains.
Yeah.
Joe Biden's right. They turned us all back into slaves.
Right.
So listen to him.
You'll have to report it. Mike Harlow will be reporting in from the gay camps on location at the gay camp. And it's just like him at a swimming pool at like a white party, throwing the beach ball. Coming to you live from Trump's gay camps. And the music.
That will be totally true. Yeah.
The band can be in handmade costumes. The bandmates. The bandmates. Oh my gosh, this is just silly. Therese says, Keri, our Knit Night podcast is having a Christmas party soon. The alpha would be awesome. Oh, I want to be there, lady. I really want to be there. I have to find out when the date is. Tell Amy to Amy reminds me of all the important knitting dates because she knows I'm very scatterbrained. ADL 1992, thank you for the super chat for $1.99 says, Kimmel had personality then and wasn't just a shill. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. How the longer you stay in that ideology, the more of your personality it kills, or the more of your sincerity I think it kills. And Kimmel's just a zombie of a person, in my opinion. I don't think there's anything authentic left in him.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, we'll talk in part 2 about him and Colbert because I generally thought both of those men were very funny, especially Colbert prior to them getting these talk shows.
Yes. Actually, no, go ahead.
I was just saying Kimmel was very edgy. Like we didn't get to it tonight, but in part 2, we'll show you some of the blackface / brownface he did on the Man Show and all this controversial stuff. And he wouldn't do anything of that sort, even close to that today. So he actually had balls at one point in time, but that's gone. And Colbert was hilarious. I've talked about my love for Strangers of Candy, and I just loved him on that show. And even on Daily Show, he's really funny. But Colbert Report was funny. But once he started getting into the talk show where he had to be himself, which wasn't funny, he couldn't play a character, and he just embraced politics and just didn't work. We'll get to it, but
it didn't work. Yeah, but Anthony, my husband was saying today, like, he actually felt more of a betrayal from Colbert because he was saying, in his opinion, Colbert is very smart and very funny naturally, or used to be. And so for him to become just another woke lecturing unfunny scold is sort of sad. Whereas Kimmel, and I agree with him, I felt that way about Colbert. I used to think he was very funny, and I do think he's very smart. But Kimmel's neither. I've never found Kimmel funny. Sorry, I've never.
Really?
And I don't think he's intelligent. Like, there's there. I don't know. That's just me. But okay, I gotta run. You guys, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We're back on our regular schedule. We'll let you know when we're doing part 2. We have to do part 2 because we got like up to the top, the climax of late night. Now we have to talk about what happened. So thank you guys. Thank you, Mystery Chris.
Thank you. And thank you, chat.
Thank you, chat. We'll see you guys later. Take care. Thanks for hanging out with us. Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.